What's good? What's good? What's good? Welcome to the Ant Show, and I'm coming to you worldwide on Blog Talk Radio, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Specker. And on today's show, we're going to discuss the 2015 NFL schedule, as the schedule was released, a couple of days ago. So a lot of key games, a lot of big games. I'm going to break it down week to week on who I think is going to be the key game for each week and which matchup I'm excited to see, as we're getting 1 week away from the draft too. Just one more week until the draft. So I'm excited about that. So let's start things off with the week one of the 2015 schedule. If I can find week one of the 2015 schedule. Let's see here. All right, so week one, the season starts off September 10th with a kickoff game between the Super Bowl champion, New England Patriots, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you have on Sunday, you have Green Bay at Chicago, Kansas City at Houston, Cleveland at New York, Indianapolis at Buffalo. Rex Ryan making his Buffalo Bills debut at home. Then you have Miami at Washington, Carolina at Jacksonville, Seattle at St. Louis, New Orleans at Arizona, Detroit at San Diego, Tennessee at Tampa Bay, Cincinnati at Oakland, Baltimore at Denver, New York at Dallas. That's a Sunday night game. New York at Dallas is a Sunday night game. And then on Monday night, the doubleheader. The first doubleheader will be Philadelphia at Atlanta. And then the last game will be Minnesota at San Francisco. So the Thursday night kickoff game, I think the NFL, me personally, I would have rather saw a rematch of the AFC Championship game. I thought it should have been Indianapolis at New England for the kickoff game, not Pittsburgh. Only because I think Pittsburgh, that game maybe a few years ago would be interesting. I don't really think it would be interesting at this point in time, not only that, but there'll be no Le'Veon Bell. No, Le'Veon Bell, it will be suspended for the first, 3 games or something like that. Or maybe the first 2 games. I don't know. Either way, he's not going to play in this game. So I thought the NFL could have scheduled a better matchup for New England in that Thursday night kickoff game instead of Pittsburgh. Maybe Indianapolis, maybe Denver, maybe even Buffalo. Now that Rex Ryan's there, and now that with Buffalo, a lot of people expect it to be better. So I thought they could have did a better job scheduling that game instead of Pittsburgh. Now, to me, the game, I think the most interesting game of the weekend for opening weekend will be Baltimore at Denver. I think that'd be a great game. 2 teams that are expected to do well, 2 teams that could possibly make a Super Bowl run. Everybody assumes this might be Peyton Manning's last year. Now that'd be Gary Kubiak, who's the new head coach of the Broncos, who was the offensive coordinator for the Ravens last year. So that could be an interesting matchup as well. So to me, that's the game of the weekend between Baltimore and Dallas. Between Baltimore and Denver. Me being a Cowboys fan, I'm excited about the Giants-Cowboys matchup on Sunday Night Football to start off the NFL season. That's always a great game. And then the 2 Monday night games, it's just. No, they don't really make me moist. No, they don't really turn me on. Doesn't really tickle my pickle that much. But if you're an Eagles fan, Eagles-Falcons, okay. Chip Kelly and that new Eagles team, that revamped Eagles team, taking on Atlanta, who everybody expects to be better. And you got Minnesota, San Francisco. San Francisco, they lost a lot of players. I expect them to take a step back this year. Minnesota, it is what it is. Teddy Bridgewater's second year in the league. All right. So moving on, week number 2. So week 2, Week 2, you have on Thursday night football, you have Denver at Kansas City. That's always a AFC West rivalry. Should be a good game. The Chiefs always play the Broncos close since Alex Smith and Andy Reid's been there. The Chiefs have always played the Broncos close. So I expect that to be another early season close game. Then the schedule for Sunday, September 20th, you have Houston at Carolina, San Francisco at Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay at New Orleans, Detroit at Minnesota, Arizona at Chicago, New England at Buffalo, San Diego at Cincinnati, Tennessee at Cleveland, Atlanta at New York, Atlanta taking on the New York Giants, I should say, St. Louis at Washington, Miami at Jacksonville, Baltimore at Oakland, Dallas at Philadelphia. The Sunday night game will be a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game between Seattle at Green Bay. And then Monday night you have the Jets at the Colts. So for week 2, the game of the matchup I'm most looking forward to seeing is a Sunday night football, Seattle at Green Bay. Last year's NFC Championship game was a great game, one of the best playoff games I've ever seen. It's going to be at Lambeau Field this time. It's not going to be in Seattle. I know Green Bay, even though it's a regular season game, only week 2, I know there's going to be some extra for Green Bay. They want to get revenge on Seattle. I think it's gonna be a great game. And I'm really interested to see the Seahawks too, because now they add Jimmy Graham, just how explosive that offense could possibly be. So Seattle versus Green Bay, to me, that's the matchup that I'm looking forward to the most. And I think that's the matchup that headlines week 2 of the NFL season. Now we move on to week 3. And so the top matchups for week 3. Now the NFL, as we all know, this year will be the 50th anniversary of the Super Bowl. This year is Super Bowl 50. So what the NFL is doing is what the NFL is doing is they're doing a thing where they're having rematches of they're highlighting all the rematches of the Super Bowl. So like for example, in week 2 we have the Jets versus the Colts, which would be a rematch of Super Bowl 3. In week 1 you're having I know there's a Super Bowl rematch in there somewhere. In week 1 you have the Dolphins and the Redskins, which is a rematch of Super Bowl 7 and 17. So there's a lot of the NFL's highlighting that because this is the 50th anniversary. They're gonna highlight all the Super Bowl rematches throughout the season, which is I guess if you're a historian of the game like myself, that's something to get you excited about. Cause I know I'm excited about it. So the highlight for week 3 is Kansas City taking on Green Bay, which is a rematch of Super Bowl 1. So you have the Thursday night game will be the Washington Redskins at the New York Giants. Then of course you have Atlanta, and then on Sunday you have Atlanta at Dallas, Indianapolis at Tennessee, Oakland at Cleveland, Cincinnati at Baltimore, Jacksonville at New England, New Orleans at Carolina, Philadelphia at New York, Tampa Bay at Houston, San Diego at Minnesota. Then you have Pittsburgh at St. Louis, which will be a rematch of Super Bowl 14. Then you have San Francisco at Arizona, Buffalo at Miami, Chicago at Seattle, Denver at Detroit. That'll be the Sunday night game. And the Monday night game, like I said, a rematch of Super Bowl 1, Kansas City at Green Bay. So, to me, the game of the week that week will be Denver and Detroit. These are two playoff teams. Denver, like I said, is most likely Peyton Manning's last run. Detroit, interested to see if they can make that next step, take that next step with Matt Stafford and Calvin Johnson, and actually make a run, possibly make a deep playoff run, possibly go to the Super Bowl. But as from a historian standpoint, I'm actually interested to see how the NFL does these Super Bowl rematches since they're highlighting it. Like I said, it's the 50th anniversary of the Super Bowl coming up. And so the NFL is highlighting all these Super Bowl rematches. So week 3, you have 2 of them, Pittsburgh and the Steelers and the Rams. Obviously, the Steelers played the Los Angeles Rams in Super Bowl 14. So they're playing each other. And you got Kansas City and Green Bay rematch Super Bowl 1. So I'm interested to see how the NFL does. Are they going to wear throwback uniforms to what they wore back when they played each other in the Super Bowl? Is it going to be like a celebration? So I'm very interested to see how the NFL handles it. And so those 2 games I'm looking forward to see as well. But the highlight of that weekend will definitely be Detroit and Denver, which is the Sunday night game. Prime time. Should be a great game. A lot of offenses are playing inside the dome. And so continuing on with the so Thursday night game. So now week 4, the Thursday night game for week 4 will be the Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's always a great matchup, rivalry game. We know they hate each other. Might be a little something extra for this one because Baltimore beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs last year. And so now Baltimore will return to Heinz Field. And then on Sunday you have the Jets at the Dolphins, Jacksonville at Indianapolis. Another Super Bowl rematch of Super Bowl 25. You have the New York Giants at the Buffalo Bills. Then you have the Carolina Panthers at the Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Redskins. The Oakland Raiders at the Chicago Bears. The Houston Texans at the Atlanta Falcons. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cleveland Browns at the San Diego Chargers. The Green Bay Packers at the San Francisco 49ers, The St. Louis Rams at the Arizona Cardinals. The Minnesota Vikings at the Denver Broncos. The Sunday night game is the Dallas at New Orleans. Monday night you have Detroit at Seattle. So again, a highlight Super Bowl rematch has been the highlight of this season. The NFL is really promoting this, the Super Bowl rematch stuff. So to me, you got the Giants versus the Bills. I think actually it would be a great game. So I think both teams will be vastly improved this season. So I think that'd be a great game. But to me, the game of the week will have to be the game of that weekend. Will probably have to be the Monday night game, Detroit at Seattle. That could possibly be the NFC Championship game preview. Possibly. To me, that would be the game to look out for, Detroit at Seattle. And of course, the Thursday night game would be great too. Baltimore at Pittsburgh, even though Thursday night games really aren't that interesting. All right, so now we head into week 5. Also, I forgot to say backtrack to week 4. New England and Tennessee have a bye week, so I forgot to mention that. Week 5, the teams with bye weeks in week 5, you have Carolina, Miami, Minnesota, and the Jets. All 4 teams with a bye week, as Dolphins and Jets play each other week 4 in London. And we know how people feel about the London game.